So next up, we're really excited to hear from farmers themselves around their experience in transitioning to regenerative farming. So of course, farmers are central to this fight against climate change and to restoring our soils to food security. And they're also at the front lines of climate change. They are the ones who have the capacity to become, regenerative heroes, but that also comes with a lot of challenges and responsibilities. So we're really excited to hear more about their perspective and their experience. So first off, I'll welcome on stage Miroslaw Korzeniowski, who's the president of the Agro-Ekoton Association and who is a farmer in Poland. Welcome, Miroslaw. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here, and may you see my slides? Great. I'm in two hats here. First as a farmer, and second role, it's president of association who want to promote good practices in sustainable regenerative agriculture. And first of all, I have to say, what is our strategic goal? I mean farmers, but also as an association. Then first is all those activities should be concentrated on perspective at least one generation. On this picture, you can see already 3 generations of our family. In our case, everything what is about soil is very important because core part of our surname, korzeń, means roots. That healthy soil means healthy roots. But to be fair, I want to say that, of course, by emotions, we want to do this. But we want to do this because it's also our lifestyle. We want to survive as a farmers in future, what is really challenging currently in Europe. I have heard many times today European Union. We cannot forget that we are not island. We are surrounded by seas and ocean, but we are not island separated from other parts of the world. And we need to survive also as a farmers in competitive market worldwide. We are really happy that in our association, but also physically as a farmers, we can collaborate with scientists. About 50% of today participants are scientists, Polish institutes like Horticulture Institute, University of Life Science, but also international players like strongly present here, EIT Food. But for sure, we want to do this not only for today, for tomorrow, but for at least one next generation. Some examples how and first of all, why we want to do this. In the past, we had a relatively simple model of production, partly animal production, partly horticulture production, fruit and veggies, and there was no problem with access to organic matter from animal production. But it's finished. It's market trend. It's a business case mentioned again many times today. What is our business case? Our business case to survive with horticulture production because animal production, it's not profitable anymore. But we lost very cheap and local source of organic matter for our fruit and veggies production. Then we had to change our model of production in the field and protection of our biodiversity in the soil. Then 3 years ago, we started in collaboration with some scientific partners, small plot trials, and then we tried to share it also with kind of good practices examples with other farmers. After 3 years of tests, we could say that we need more organic matter, especially in sandy soil in biggest apple orchard in Europe, close to Warsaw, because we have naturally low amount of organic matter there. Then, no animal production. Then we're looking for some local sources which are available. Then it could be mushroom substrate. We are #1 producer of mushrooms in Europe. Then we have waste from this production, which could be useful for us as an organic fertilizer. Then for fruit growers, it's very attractive currently. But we had no experience in the past with it as a fertilizer. Then we need to check it, how it works. Then some lignite or humic acids. There's a lot of commercial players who say, I can offer you humic acids and you will increase amount of your organic matter with 5 liters of liquid product. Sorry, but it's commercial story often from people who want to push it to farmers. It's commercial reality. What we also, in collaboration with some scientists, decide to do, it's to stop to use herbicides in top fruit production, and instead have it, I prefer to call it cover crops, not flower strips, because it's not for biodiversity, it's partly for biodiversity, but mainly for us, it's stop erosion, in decreased number of herbicide use, in this situation, no herbicides use, then it could be, it was our assumption that there will be positive effect on microbial activity in the soil with this approach. Then we can collect some nitrogen, then we started also to use also some bacterial, then we could say also about innovations which could help us in this approach. After 3 years, you can see here that those pictures comes from 3 seasons, before planting, at planting, and the last one on my left, it's about a few weeks ago. Then it was checked, and again, what we need, verification, because there's a lot of commercial companies who offer us various products and they say it will work in your conditions. Then we need to check how it works, because we cannot see it. Then with one of Polish startups, we checked it with it's called Biotrex Index. It shows us microbial activity and biodiversity in the soil. Then even after 1 year of this kind of approach, then we stopped to use herbicides. We saw that it's an increase, significant increase of biodiversity in the soil. What is, frankly speaking, positive surprise to me, but it works. And it was checked, we were waiting for results from this year, but I expect that will be a really similar trend like we had this in this location near Warsaw, in Mazovia region. It's another example that after this first stage, we decide to go to broader group of farmers to show them that it makes sense, not because we love our planet. Of course, we love our planet, we love our job, but first we need to have profitable production. Then we selected around 100 farms, and I can show you here results from this Biotrex monitoring, that it shows that after 1 year of change of approach to herbicides use, there is some positive trends. Again, confirmation from this what we have seen already in Mazovia region. And again, change of mindset farmers, not because they are not clever enough, because they have some rules which they know, and now they need to adopt all those new rules, and they have so many signals from various directions, and they no clear definition what is really the best for them in their soil and climatic conditions. Then when we collected some best practices, we want to share it, and we see that there is a positive feedback for farmers. And if you want to have involved farmer in this process, first, this trust is basic, that they will trust that all information what we share are realistic. It's the reason why we do it with farmers, not only on scientific level. Another element of our approach, of course, soil is base, but soil is not independent from other elements of production. Then fertilization, for sure we need to reduce fertilization with mineral fertilizers, also due to economical reasons, because price of mineral fertilizers increased dramatically. Then what instead, that first we use more and more products like bacteria which could collect nitrogen from air. It's new technology for us, and it works. We confirm it works in many crops. And new advisory systems. Advisory systems mean digital tools like this, which could collect us in its end of May, just a few weeks ago, that it's real-time results, and farmer can just use only this element which is missing instead of multi macro and micro elements. It's good for soil, it's good for nature, but it's good for farmer pocket. And if he calculate all this, he see, okay, I love this innovation. Another example, other best practices. Fortunately, we are in stage where it's a lot of new technologies, also IT companies, also companies not involved in agriculture in the past are more and more interested in agriculture. And one of successful projects for me is test farms where we, together with EIT Food, since 3 years already, test all those initiatives in the real field conditions with our farmers, and farmers, they could advise to innovators. Again, knowledge transfer mentioned by one of our colleagues in previous session should be in both directions, not only from science to farmers. And for me, test farms is excellent example where knowledge transfer is also from farmers to innovative companies. And you can see here some examples of various technologies very advanced, tested by us. Thanks to this, we could reduce amount of chemical pesticides, and of course, it's have positive effect on quality of soil as well. And general biodiversity in the soil, but of course also all, I don't know, pollinators, for example. The last picture with this guy with some graphs, it's example of international knowledge sharing. It's from Wageningen University Research Station. Yeah, 2 slides, okay. Then we have also knowledge sharing between countries. Last example of best practices, it's that we use also new technologies to validate all those initiatives which could help us. Sorry. Then summary. In front of us, we see a lot of challenges. I mean as a farmers. First, no livestock production, less organic matter. Stop soil degradation, it's absolutely priority 1 for us, before we will go to regenerative agriculture. Low profitability. Without profitability for farmers, we could forget about all activities for regenerative agriculture. And let's forget about quick wins. Let's think about this 1 generation perspective, because in the regeneration of soil, there is no way for quick wins only. But still, we see opportunities, no chemical innovations, digitalization, all those elements which could be helpful for us. For sure, cooperation with R&D partners, half of audience today, glad to be here. Knowledge transfer to farmers, but also exchange knowledge between farmers and other stakeholders, and projects like test farms, excellent example. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions, I'm stay with you. I will be glad to discuss about all our activities and potential collaboration. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Miroslav. That was so interesting to learn more about the practices you've been implementing on your farm, including flower strips and the apple orchard, and really the importance of cooperating with R&D partners and knowledge transfer as well. Thank you. So next up, I will invite on stage Marja Oesch from Porsila Farm in Finland. So Marja, please join us on stage to, there you are, to share your experience in transitioning to regenerative agriculture. Thank you.
Is this working? Yes, okay. Thank you, all of us, all of our. This has been very interesting speeches, and my name is Marja Oesch, and I have a farm called Porsila. And I've been a farmer 2 years right now. 2021, I bought that farm from my parents. I've been participating on that, working on the farm before, but I didn't have a lot of voice or power before. I was just working there. So 2021, when I started the farm, I started to change the system more regenerative way. And for me, it's never been clear that I want to be a farmer. One of the reasons were that I felt that I didn't have a vision, and I have some kind of uncertain feel about future. I love to work on that farm, but I didn't believe that there's a lot of like opportunities or possibilities to be a farmer. I didn't have a vision. And then I participated in Carbon Action. We are one of these pilot farms. 2019, it was the time that I was thinking a lot at what I want to be. Do I want to be a farmer? And Carbon Action was something that I find that hope and inspiration and solutions. For me, that I met new farmers who are very excited about their job, inspired me a lot. And again, these education and regenerative things built and draw me this kind of vision. And I can't somehow emphasize enough that vision of hope, because I sometimes feel that when we haven't been able to contemplate or like envision the future of agriculture and articulate that through hope and solutions, we have darkened our attitudes. And I felt that. I didn't see any possibilities. And if we see the future or the change only as a threat, or merely it's only something that we have to give up something, we somehow start be afraid of change. And that's something what I sometimes feel around me, that there's a lot of farmers who are not satisfied things around them. They're dissatisfied policies, but they are too afraid to somehow demand or even desire change. And that was sometimes the problem in my mind, that I wasn't satisfied, but then I didn't know, is the future even better? If I change something, is it better for me? And then when I was fearless enough to start farming, I made this decision. There were still a few things which were narrowing my thinking and which were affecting my actions and my mindset. And one of the things were that I was somehow so used to the prevailing system around me that I couldn't revision anything else. I have spent entire my life in that farm, surrounded the same landscapes, that they were somehow accustomed and like ingrained in my mind. And they were restricting my imagination. I couldn't see anything else, because somehow my experience of, for example, diversity was limited. And through Carbon Action, again, new farmers, and I get the opportunity to visit another farms. And again, farms which have been farmed regenerative way for a long time. And it was somehow magnificent moment for me that when I visited in this farm and I somehow saw different systems and I felt rich and some kind of well-preserved ecosystem around me. And I started to realize that, okay, this is so different what I'm feeling at home. If I'm going back home, the sounds and all the scents around me are completely different. And I started to realize that, okay, I have never even dared to somehow revision in my mind all this, because I didn't have like image or imaginary in my mind. And it's somehow so hard to even achieve something, even get something if you can't vision that in your head. So when I was thinking about my farm, even if I had this knowledge that, okay, we have a monoculture, we have a problems, and I want create more diversity, but because I have this limited experience of diversity, I just couldn't visualize things. The things what I saw in my mind were very small steps. I couldn't see that I can seriously build another system, or like I can do big changes. And that was somehow restricting me and my actions. And this is something what I feel that it's probably concern for most of us that if we are not able to somehow, how can I put that? If we are not able to feel and knowledge what we have lost in the past and we can't perceive that, I don't know how we find a motivation to even protect the existing biodiversity. And I feel that most of us, even farmers, might have this kind of a limited experience of biodiversity. Then another thing what I always say that which is most important about regenerative agriculture is that, and the most important practice is the observation of nature. If you want to do best solutions and if you want to find the root causes of your problems, you have to observe nature. You have to look around, you have to dig pits in your soil, you have to identify species, you have to count earthworms, for example. And this observation of nature started to deepen my relationship to surrounding nature. When I was counting the earthworms in my fields, and the next day when I was seeding a new crop to the exact same field, I remember my observations and the earthworms come to my mind, and I started to think about what is happening to them, what is happening, how my actions are affecting them. So like the more I observe my nature around me, the more I started to think about the other things, like other living things around me, and it started to affect my decision-making processes. I started to count some kind of value, the things around me, and the relationship to nature deepened. And this is something what is sometimes hard to describe, because I feel that even before I thought that I have a good relationship with nature, and I'm appreciating that. But I didn't have an urge to act differently. And this is sometimes that we farmers are thinking that we have very appreciating relationship to nature, but it's not always like that, because we are also economically dependent from the nature. We might have just too functional or a short-term economical relationship to nature, and then we are not valuing the other living things around us. But for me, that when I started to observe, I started to build this kind of deeper connection, and I started to valuing and appreciating things more around me. And it changed my decision making, because the more I observed, the more the things were in my mind. And somehow it made my work more meaningful. It was quite a nice thing. You feel yourself as important, you can do a lot. And regenerative agriculture has made my work more interesting in every way. Thank you.
Wonderful, Marja. Thank you so much. This was very inspirational. And it's so true that, I feel this really reinforced how a paradigm shift in our minds and our mindset is really the first step to enable change. And it was really interesting to hear how observation of nature played an important role in your relationship to it and enabled you to change your actions as well. So thank you. So next up, we will have Adam Giertta from Bonagård, Sweden. So please join me in welcoming Adam on stage.
So, it's a good sign you're laughing. Usually it's farmers seeing that picture and they, obviously relate to it. And today is a good day to be at a party. I consider this to be a party, and everybody wants to talk about soil. Right, so we are on the colored bits there, and then you see the wasteland, the brown concrete on the right. That's Stockholm. And that's one of the biggest gaps I have as a farmer, is the legislative body in Stockholm deciding everything for farming. even though it's very, very close, it's a long distance from agriculture to decision making. In Sweden, believe it or not, farming is considered to be an environmental hazard. It's true. Same as toxic waste. I consider that to be a problem anyway. And now, with the Russian situation, they suddenly realized they might actually need farmers. So we will see what happens, and then with carbon and everything. But we've been on the northern part there. It's been in the family for 300 years and some. And then we took on the southern parts this year. It's a farm that we rent. And it's a big, big difference between those parts, even though they're very close on the map. And I'll show you why. In 97, we ditched the plow. I took over the family farm in 98, started with min-till. The main drive for that was same as with no-till, it was cost. Tried to save on diesel, man-hours, machinery, what you want. We also bought a new drill, because you needed a new drill, we thought. Also for min-till, we bought a new drill, because you needed a new drill. In the same time, in 08 there, you can see a figure of 4. That's animals on the farm. We started to build up a cow herd. We bought 4 cows. And then in 2015, the next shift was going into eco with or ecological farming with parts of the farm. So we needed a new drill. We bought a new drill. And the reason then was we wanted to be able to grow our own cow food. And the cows now increased to 40. And it was a transition going from plow, min-till, no-till, and eco. We can see a difference on the fields. Still using full chemical inputs, if you will, fertilizer and all that. There's no real change, except on the eco side, of course, but that's only a smaller part on the farm. And now in, say, 22 or 23, I would like to call it, we're going into more of a biological farming. So we bought a new drill. And now the drive here, why I call it bio, is we have more cows. We can start using the cows as a tool and grazing with the cows out on the arable fields. And this is the big transition. We grow cover crops. After harvest, we graze them with the cows. We can feed the cows on the field in the wintertime. So we suddenly start to stack. You have a grain harvest, you have a grazing, you have a cover crop, and you can feed, bale feed out on the fields. It's a wonderful tool with the cows. The more you have, the merrier. Now we're really starting to see a difference on the fields. We start to reduce fertilizer. We start to reduce chemical inputs. And a word of warning was there's been a lot of talk about sampling and measuring and all that. And I can guarantee if 5 of us go out and take a sample in the soil, we get 5 results. We send it to 2 labs, guaranteed at least 10 different results. It's very, very, very difficult to measure things in soil. The most important tools I have for measuring what's going on in my soil are my feet, my hands, my nose, and maybe my mouth. Those are very, very valuable tools, and the farmers have them. They just need to start using them, maybe with the help of a shovel as well. But there's a lot to be said for technology. Yes, it's usable. But the farmer's knowledge in the fingers is a very, very valuable tool. But it's hard to sell, except for the farmer who can actually measure. So lessons learned on this trip. Roots are more important than shoots. And here I'm talking about in the long run. Yes, the shoots, what's above the ground, it's a cash crop. We need to survive from year to year. But in the long run, if we're talking about having the farm for 300 years, we'd like to keep it for 300 more. And we need to build soil. We've been destroying soil since the 50s with agrochemical inputs. Trying to transition away from that and doing it in a more biological friendly means is very, very important, we find anyway. And the cows here help, they do help a lot. Good, and photosynthesis is key. You need something growing on the field to feed the roots and feed the microorganisms. Basically, you can forget about the cows, just feed the microorganisms and you'll be fairly happy. The cows, yes, even better. And local context. The internet is a wonderful thing. We learn a lot from the internet, and that's where I get my inputs from. Other farmers, what are they doing? What's working? What's not working? Will it work here? How will it work here? And there's 1,000 different ideas out there coming from every corner of the world. And it will work, just being implemented somehow. But it's not bugs in a jug. It's how to get the soil to perform better. That is the key. And the big journey is in here, really. And not buying a new drill. That's not the solution to things. Now I bought the last drill, I hope, but we shall see. Good, and this is an example of what we can do. In this case, it's our sheep. They graze the ground down to zero. Then we drill. In this case, a rye crop into a clover ley. The rye crop grows up, we harvest the rye, and the sheep come back, or we can bale it, or just graze it, and then we drill a new crop again. And that's a very, very low input, low harvest, but extremely low costs as well. But we build soil all the time. We have a living root, except in Sweden it's obviously frozen parts of the year, but besides from that, it is growing and feeding the microorganisms. And with the cows, we can put 400 cows on 1 hectare for a very, very short time, and that does make an impact. You can graze something right down to the bottom, or just move them on quickly if you want the grass to start growing again. This case, it doesn't really show, but this is in January, and here we grazed the previous crop, the cover crop, right down to zero, preparing for the next crop. And it's on rather big fields. It's just a thin blue line separating the cows from food and what they've already eaten. It's a very, very simple system. It takes 5 minutes to move this blue line 20, 30 meters for the cows eating for the next day. And the cows love to eat. It's no problem. Just as long as they have food and water, no problem. And this is what we're looking at quite a lot now. This is from England. They grow wheat on grazed ground. And you cut between the wheat rows. You cut what might be weeds or grass or whatever to keep that down. Let the wheat grow, harvest, and then let the grass grow. And this is a project we're quite involved in, and we will move forward with this with an autonomous system. And there's many, many other things we do as well, but I'm out of time, I've been told. But it's a really interesting journey, and we do see a big difference just walking across the land. And I invite you to come and walk if you want. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adam. I think probably many of us here can relate to having been at a party and being a little bit bored because no one wants to talk about soil health. So that was a great reminder there. And thank you for reminding us also about the importance of favoring photosynthesis for as long as possible, having greenery for as long as possible in the field in order to have living roots in the soil for as long as possible. So next up, our last farmer who will speak with us today is Jari Eerola from Setala Eerola farm here in Finland. So please join me in welcoming Jari on stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Okay. There's one picture from our farm, and I tell something more. Okay. Our farm is located Hämeenlinna. It's about 100 kilometers from Helsinki to north, and we have beef cattle. Bulk calves comes from dairy farms, and they are 2 weeks old, and we growing up calves about 18 months, and after then they are going to slaughtery. And we have a crop. Okay. We product crop and cattle feed on our farm, and we product every feed for to our sorry, my English. Okay. Yeah, I think it's such a exciting speaking English at first time. So big, so many people here. But right again. Okay. Of course. We have regenerative farming, and we have long history there. Our family is being farmer there more than 350 years, and we have beef cattle, like I tell, about 180 pieces, and we have field area 155 hectares and forest more than 300 hectares. And as I told, we have beef cattle, and bull calves comes from dairy farms, and we have most of yield. It's used to cattle feed, and part of grain yield can be sell to food industry. And of course, yeah, we have crop rotation. It's almost like in organic farm. We have conventional way to farming, but we use same methods than in organic farmers using. That it means that we have crop rotation, we have grass, and after then we have grain, usually barley, wheat, or oat. And after then there's protein crops like raps or pea, and maybe sometimes there's renovation plant. And after then there's grain again, and mostly our crop rotation, it's about 5 or 6 years long, years long, and it means that there's coming grass again. Yeah, I think that regenerative farming, it means that you have take care of welfare about animals, people, and soil. And that's why I take at first animals, because of course our incomes, it's mostly coming from animals. It's very important for us, and it using manure. It comes organic fertilization with calves, or sorry, animals. And yeah, bull calves comes from dairy farms. Milk calves are about 40 days old when they arrive to our farm, and slaughter age is about 80 months, and weight is about 380 kilos. And our feeding is based to grass, and concentrated feed is less than 40%. And I think many other beef cattle farmers, they use concentrated feed about maybe 60%. Yeah, as I said, feed is product at our farm. Only milk power concentrated food for young calves, feed salt and minerals is needed to buy outside. And manure and slurry are organic fertilization. Yeah, and very important that we have good production results, and it's based to high animal welfare. And nowadays, meat production is about 610 grams meat per day for animal. And antibiotics is need only 5% of animals. Oh. And what we are doing in fields, at first, cultivation, we are minimized cultivation and tillage. And usually our basic tillage is cultivator and disc cultivator. And plowing is using seldom, okay. We use plowing almost only to ending grass fields. Minimize plant production only for against weed. And glyphosate doesn't need it to use. And one of thing is maximal connection. And what we are doing to maximal connection, we using renovation plant radish and grass product lot of organic material to soil. I mean increasing organic material to soil. And radish is seeding at spring, and it's possible to seed winter grain in autumn after radish. And at spring, seed collector plant with grain continue connection after grain harvest. And of course, we use so much than we can winter crops, and it means that it's continue connection in winter, autumn and winter time. And okay, we are doing cooperation with Anora. Before it was called Altia, and we are doing cooperation to growing up carbon neutral barley, and Anora is making Koskenkorva vodka climate action product from our barley, and it was made at first time in 2020. And of course it's product regenerative farming barley, and it's verified to carbon neutral. And this is very interesting and motivated opportunity for me and for us. And I think it was a very good chance to moving whole farm to regenerative farming. It's very motivated, and I think my farming career top moment was that I get my name side of Koskenkorva vodka bottle. I think there's any other farmers who have get money in Koskenkorva bottle. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jari, for sharing the story of transitioning to regenerative agriculture on your farm. And by the way, your English was very clear, most definitely much clearer than my Finnish, and I'm sure that's the case for many people in this room, so there are no worries to be had there. Wonderful. So for the last segment of our day in this room, we are delighted to end the day with a little bit of art. So art is really a universal language. It's a way to touch people's emotions. And, you know, in this field of work, as in many fields of work, you know, we can be a lot in our heads and in the realm of the rational, which is obviously very important when we talk about scientific advances, farming practices, etc. But to achieve the paradigm shift that we've been saying is so important, to achieve change, well, touching people's emotions is really important, and art is a fantastic way of doing so. So in this context, we're really happy to welcome on stage Teemu Lehmusruusu to talk to us about his art piece, Trophic versus the Soil of Art. So welcome, Teemu.
Thank you. Wow, it is exciting to be here in front of you. I'm such an honor to be this anchor of this day and bring you some notes on the modalities of what has happened in the course of past few years. Actually, we started already in 2018 when the Carbon Action Platform was established as an autonomous art project. So we are free artists, but we are in a long-standing dialogue with Carbon Action Platform agencies. So it has provided us an amazing kind of viewpoint on the forefront, the edge of knowledge in the scientific terms, and the kind of edge of unknown. And this was one of the first observations to do, that this edge of unknown, where the curiosity is kind of pointing its focus, it's very organic to have a art-science dialogue. Because art is also about reaching into the unknown and reaching into the invisible. And this comes very close to what was already mentioned, for example, with Marja and Adam, the observation, the perception, what does that mean in this context? And I'm an artist, full-time artist. I'm also doing a research-based artistic doctoral research at the Aalto University. This was one of the first thoughts I ran into 2018 when I was kind of starting this project. It was by Wendell Berry. Given only the health of the soil, nothing that dies is dead for very long. And I put this headline, this is from my memo, Soil as Mediation of Existence. So it turned out to be this amazingly rich thematic area of both this material circulation, the kind of porousness between the stones, plants, animals, and humans, but also this ontological area where the binaries of death and alive are in continuous becoming process. Oh, that's a bit small. But these are a couple of key questions. So these are questions, maybe not missions, because for me, art is not an instrument. Art is free. Art can do something that is of use or something that is totally useless. But quite often it kind of happens that it has a lot of relevance, meaning, and also use in sort of our real life. And these are some questions that I'm thinking about. How to experience the imperceptible, to extend our senses through art. How does art operate as a happening of embodied verification of reality? For example, in the soil, the verification of its biodynamics, of its ecosystems that are out of the reach of our eyes, and also out of the reach of our living environments quite often. And one of these key kind of thoughts has been that we all have our right and a possibility to have this soil relation. So of course the farmers sharing their ways of observing, smelling, tasting, touching, seeing the soil is a route there, an exemplary route. But also in art, reaching out to the volumes of the landscape. I think it was Tuomas Mattila and Juuso Joona that I've been working the most, was that we were beside this farm, and I was kind of like thinking, how big is this? And then Tuomas was saying that, well, it's not in square meters, it's in cubic meters. That we're not looking at a landscape that has some surfaces, but we're looking at a landscape of volumes. And as you know, landscapes are in art also a central theme, and now the concept of landscape is turning into a concept of volumes instead of surfaces. I give you a couple of concrete examples of the art projects. This was one of the first ones in this series called Maatu Unu Henki Respiration Field in Kaisaniemi Botanic Garden. And here, for example, Liisa Kulmala from the Finnish Meteorological Institute was inspiring me with their respiration chambers. So I built these hand-blown glass respiration chambers and got these CO2 sensors in them. And they have these sound actuators and the light system, so the actual respiration situation in these chambers is then manifested in the sound and lighting of that area. It's also like an autonomous system with its own solar energy. Every 15 minutes, this small chamber closes, and this field in the botanic garden becomes this kind of field of resonance. And this was really interesting because there's a lot of people in this garden, a lot of regular visitors, and many were just like lying around there between these resonating chambers. And we didn't give them scientific information about the soil, but we definitely gave this huge kind of point of curiosity of that something is happening there, something is breathing. Underground, the plants are breathing, then we as humans are breathing. So it's kind of habitual reminding of our anthropocentric view of the world, that we kind of have to put attention to other things breathing first, and then we are breathing after that. Other one was House of Polar Bears, this kind of outdoors installation in the Helsinki Biennial, where I was interested in the becoming of soil. So actually, I probably would have planted something there too, but it's biologically protected, and I kind of came to the pulse of that place. I had the feeling it's just in front of Helsinki, and I had this feeling that decaying in peace is a luxury in contemporary times. So like our forests are, used so heavily, and decaying materials are seen something as a threat most of the times, that this place that was biologically protected was very relaxing to my body also. And I built these mycelium towers. So they are in controlled environment, mycotectural building blocks. So mycelium colonizes this growth medium. And it has this organ system, like what you would see in church. So these sensors in the decaying wood are operating these blue motors, and this whole system is resonating as a 9-pipe organ. So you see it as like this, but when you enter the area, this park, you will feel in your body these different resonating sounds that are in connection with the decaying processes. And I never got so many private messages than after this summer that people went there like time and time again and do different kind of meditations and stuff. This one, just quickly, I have this as a one monitor system in the lobby. And why it's interesting is that I collected the image banks of Finnish soil scientists, and gave it to this GAN, generative AI software. So it tries to sort of come up with these missing soil creature forms. And we don't know the soil very well, and this was the starting point. And I didn't go that far that I would train it to do, fully formed imaginary specimen, but like it is in this constant process of becoming into different shapes. And because there is like ticks and worms and all different kind of soil animals included, it is never like reaching a static form. But for me, this is like a how would I say, bringing up the aesthetics of the soil, that it's really beautiful in there, and it's really like undermined and overlooked in my mind. And then this is opening in 1 week almost, next week's Friday. You maybe recognize the name Field Observatory, that is something similar to what is happening in the Finnish Meteorological Institute and Carbon Action Platform. And indeed, there is the Field Observatory data system online that you can visit. And this is a temporal public artwork in Pori, west coast of Finland, in a very busy public park called Giertta. And this kind of 5-meter high timber frame barn-like structure is the outer core of the work, but you can enter, and we have built this approx 500 to 600 kilos clay monolith there, and we are projecting this generative animation onto it, where the data comes from the Giertta gourd, so from this Finnish Meteorological Institute test fields. So in real time, we can kind of bring the community in Pori to explore the ongoing growing season. And this is, of course, related to some kind of communal sort of meeting place of the past. But now I think these are the biggest kind of heroes that we have to gather and come to meet every Sunday nowadays. By the way, the plants here are those soil improving plants. from where the root systems has gotten this aesthetic inspiration from. Just one more. This goes now to Shopping TV. I'm sorry for that, but we got yesterday out the book of the Trophic Versus project done by a multi-award-winning Jaakko Suomalainen, a book designer, and I have one box of it for the fastest in the lobby also. But this is bringing, there is, for example, amazing article by Juuso Joona, Liisa Kulmala, Anna-Liisa Laine, as well as these more artistic approaches to the subject. So if you are into education, environmental education, public engagement, these kind of things, this can also serve as an info package for this kind of different kind of ways of working with arts. Thank you very much. Sorry for overtime.
Thank you so much, Lehmu. Wow, I thought that was so fascinating to see how you collaborated with scientists to create this, this work project and really to make us appreciate all facets of soils, including its aesthetics, soundscapes, etc. So really fascinating work and great achievement. So this concludes our program for the day in this hall. So now we will welcome you to go in the lobby and enjoy some drinks. We also encourage you to take a look at all of the posters that have been placed around the venue. There are tons of posters on site, and there are even more on Eventy than in person. So we encourage you to also take a look at the posters on Eventy, which have been made by stakeholders, all sorts of stakeholders across Northern Europe, and include topics such as research projects, practice from the field, farmer training, and much more. And we will then convene at 7 p.m. in the dining room for the dinner. So that's it. This concludes our first day. So our first day of the first ever North European regional meeting of the 4 per 1000, co-organized by our friends of the Baltic Sea Action Group. So thank you everyone so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you.